So to preface, I know I'm something of a nepo baby, but it is what it is. My mom is incredibly successful in a very niche, but very lucrative field of business. This allowed my dad to be a SAHD, and for me and my siblings to get a good education. When I graduated from college, I decided to go into the same field as my mom. While I love her and our relationship is good, I very much did not want to only be viewed as her kid, or receive special treatment, due to how well regarded she is. So I use my dad's surname, and generally keep who my mom is to myself. I also avoided coming to work for her. In my field and country, it's generally accepted that people are hired for a trial period, at the end of which either the employee or employer can cut ties with no fines or compensation required. So anyway, I went to work at one company. Again, I'll remind you, very niche market, very few employment opportunities. I went in for my trial period, and everyone seemed pretty happy with me. I put out some fires and one superior describes me as a workhorse because I'm first to the office, last out the door. It goes pretty well. Except for one colleague in my team. This dude is a huge jerk. I'm a bit of a people pleaser, and try to be on good terms with everyone. But jerk will have none of it. Dude is incredibly rude. He keeps being very confrontational. Like if a colleague, not just me, was getting any sort of acknowledgement, jerk would belittle them and their accomplishment. If someone was saying they had a rough time with something, jerk would pop up going, "Oh yeah, I did that a while back, it was super easy." Whenever someone tried talking about future plans with me, jerk would go, "Oh yeah, we'll see about that." He also apparently says some very unkind things about my appearance and masculinity, but those at least he had the decency to say behind my back, I suppose, and I only learned about them later. Like dude was incredibly mean, for apparently no reason, except trying to make himself look better, by making everyone else look worse. This one thing wasn't true to me specifically because I'm male, but his meanness seemed to apply especially to women. A few comments were about how working in this field isn't for moms, and they should be raising kids or whatever, and some other very bad stuff. But management seemed pretty content keeping him around, because apparently he was a pretty good worker, and they liked that he was ambitious. Fine. My trial period ends. I am offered a permanent position, but decide this is not the place for me, as I don't love being anybody's workhorse, and have very little interest in sticking around in jerk's vicinity. I respectfully inform them I will not be sticking around, and go find work elsewhere. On my last day I come to say goodbye. Management says they're sorry to see me go. Colleagues wish me well, and say they're gonna miss me. Jerk goes, "HA. Told you OP wasn't gonna stick around. Good riddance. Maybe this field isn't for you either." Very loudly. I leave. I'm not very confrontational, and I don't have to deal with him anymore anyway. So I just go. Some time goes by. I am now employed elsewhere. I'm happy and doing well. I love my work and my colleagues. I've been promoted, and I don't really think about jerk anymore, except, apparently there's a relative influx of applicants from jerk's company? Relative because again, very niche market. Whatever. My boss knows I did a trial period over there, so whenever an applicant comes up, he asks me about my experience with them. There are very few people I dislike, so when asked, I usually give my honest opinion, which is usually very positive. But guess whose application we suddenly receive? It's jerk. My boss asks for my opinion, and I say, look, I have personal feelings about this person, and I can't be objective. Boss, knowing just how positive I usually am about basically everyone, asks me what's up, and eventually I tell him. I tell him everything. Jerk obviously doesn't get hired. I assume that's the end of that. Few days later we have family dinner. My mom goes, wait, you had a trial period at that company, right? Do you know jerk? Well, my mom knew there was a person I really didn't get along with at that company, and the shitty things they did. I tell her it was him. Obviously, she ain't gonna hire him either, especially given his views on women. So my company ends up hiring one of jerk's company's former workers. Me and her are on great terms, and this is how I discover what happened there. Jerk got promoted, and that made a bunch of people want to leave. This caused management to look into why, and why strong applicants were leaving after their trial period was over. Turned out it was jerk. Someone had a talk with him, and from what I gather, He was not receptive to criticism. He was let go. This is when he applied to the company I work for and to my mom's. From what I understand, he no longer works in our field. There are, as I mentioned, not many employers around. But unfortunately, I have no idea what he does do. Will update if I find out. 1 month later. So been a minute since my original post. Thing kinda blew up. And that caused me to want to give a small update and clear some stuff up. So first, let me stress that my field is very niche, with few employment opportunities. It is also, as some of you suggested, niche. 1. Okay, seriously now. As some of you actually guessed, the field is medicine in a small county. This means that there aren't many spots on the residency program, but also a pretty constant influx of students and interns. The field is pretty lucrative, shitty hours, yes, but great money and a lot of prestige. 2. Some asked about an exit interview at the end of the trial, had one of those. Said I didn't really vibe with the culture and certain aspects of the way they did things. Didn't name jerk. 3. As a young, relatively speaking, specialist in my field in a not very large department, I get to weigh in on potential colleagues. So if I say someone sucks, that bears some weight. And if a department starts having issues attracting the best candidates because its chief resident is a jerk, that's going to be an issue. So with that out of the way, let's get to the update. A lot of you were very curious as to what had actually happened to him. So, I reached out to some friends. He's still a doctor, obviously, but he just went into another specialty, which given how long he worked to become chief resident is telling. He does okay probably. The reason for the update, it turns out I know his wife. I like his wife. She was a year ahead of me in med school. Got curious, so I texted her. Turns out she's not actually his wife anymore. She's his ex. They got divorced. Had coffee with her, still a lovely woman. She's not on Reddit, but apparently this thing got on out at some point and reached her? Well, I told her about this, and she couldn't believe it was me. Except she could, because she suspected it was me, because I apparently sound like a twat when I express myself in writing, which she remembers from my days at the student council equivalent, and my many emails. So okay? Still had a good time. We're getting coffee again on Sunday. Anyway, I didn't have anything to do with his firing. But after he was let go, presumably quite unamicably, he decided to move abroad after not being able to get into another department here. This didn't come to fruition, but it did cause a rift in their marriage, which then led to divorce. So, maybe I kinda torpedoed his marriage too? And yeah, that's about it for the update. We'll let you know if I get beaten up in a parking lot though. As some of you suggested I might.